Yeah, good morning. I think I've been put on the spot following the brilliant presentation from Juliana. Juliana, thank you very much. From Ofinso, I'm very familiar with the cooperative that you are part of. I think they recently won some prizes in the Netherlands, and they came to show us the prizes in Cocoa House. I'm so pleased to join this symposium, and I think my work has been made more difficult by some of the very, very true statements that have been made by the farmer. I'll see how I react to those ones. Before I start, my friend, the MC, please, are there Nigerians here? Oh, okay. Well, we have something in common. I grew up in Nigeria. Of our grammar school, Federal Government College, Ilorin. So I was in Nigeria in my formative years. I spent 11 years there. And this debate about jollof, I just want to say a few things. In my 11 years in Nigeria, I never saw jollof, never heard about the word jollof. The foods that were in Ilorin were eba, inya olomi, akara, and all those ones. Moi and the rest. Never heard of jollof. So when they talk about debate about jollof between Nigeria and Ghana, I ask myself, where did the jollof come from in Nigeria? I think that ends that. We are still expecting my good friend and a member of the board of directors of COCOBOD, Honorable John Domelo. So I'll start with your excellencies from the various embassies. Representatives of the producer organizations, leaders of our industries, development partners, the researchers and academia. I've seen a lot of people here that in nearly 35 years that I started working in cocoa, that I met them straight from UST. Members of the civil society, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. Juliana said cocoa life is under strain. I cannot but agree with her. As somebody who grew up on the farm in Asante Fijasi Senieja, I know what she's talking about. Especially when we have failed to pay our farmers some of the cocoa they have supplied since January. So clearly, cocoa life must be under strain. But we'll see what from the policy side. So I feel really honored to be invited to the symposium where we have a lot of great people here, as I've said. Leaders, producers, business people, policymakers, and the subject matter of resilience of the cocoa value chain. For those of you who went to good secondary schools, and I pride myself having gone to the famous Offa Grammar School in northern Nigeria, the concept is akin to the concept of adaptation, which my biology teacher tells me means the characteristics or features of the organism that enable the organism to live successfully in its environment. I think the concept is very closely related to resilience. I would like to thank Juliana for her insightful reflections. Her remarks serve as a powerful reminder that resilience is not only merely a technical concept, a policy aspiration or development objective. Resilience is fundamentally about people. It's about the daily realities of farmers and farming families. It is about whether producers can withstand climate shocks, earn a decent livelihood, invest in their farms, educate their children, while creating opportunities for future generations. The issues she highlighted, particularly climate change, living income, and social inclusion, are among the most pressing challenges confronting the cocoa sector in Ghana today. Ladies and gentlemen, we gathered at a defining moment for global agriculture and international trade. I'm sure you are familiar with the recent upheaval in the cocoa sector because of the drop in the price. And for the first time in the history of COCOBOD or cocoa, we have to take the measure of bringing the producer price down, given the fact that we were doing a lot of under recoveries, which was not sustainable. Climate change is drastically altering production landscapes. This is true. For those familiar with the cocoa regions of Ghana, the northern part of Bronhafo, and even when you drive from Accra all the way to Suhum Kofodia, those were all cocoa belts, been taken over by cassava and the other food crops. So we have clear evidence of the effect of climate change. While geopolitical uncertainties and evolving regulatory frameworks continue to reshape the operating environment for government, businesses, and producers alike. At the same time, our consumers, investors, regulators, civil society are demanding greater transparency, accountability, responsible sourcing, and measurable sustainability outcomes. In many markets, sustainability has evolved from a competitive advantage into a fundamental requirement for market access. And this is very clear from the EUDR regulation that is coming into force in December of this year. If it is not moved forward again, we have to comply to be able to access 70% of our market. These expectations are both necessary and welcome with Ghana, like many other countries supporting these ambitions. The critical question before us, however, is whether the systems we design are truly capable of delivering a meaningful outcome for those at the foundation of the global supply chain. I think that's a relevant question, given the statement I wrote it here, Cocoa Life is Under Strain, from Juliana. In answering this question, we must understand that policies can only succeed when they work together in practice. Sustainability goals can only be achieved when producer countries and producers themselves are active participants, not only in the implementation, but also in the design, development, and monitoring of solutions. I think this is consistent with what Juliana, you espoused. Resilience, and I think I've tried to explain it by way of biology, simply means the ability to recover from or adapt easily to change. It therefore means different things to different stakeholders depending on their areas of expertise or where they sit in the value chain. Resilience has become a strategic priority for cocoa producing countries like ours, Ghana, where farmers are increasingly confronted with unpredictable weather patterns, which is true, pests and diseases, aging farms, declining soil fertility, and growing compliance requirements. Example is the EUDR from international markets. Although faced with these challenges, producers remain the backbone of the global supply economy, constantly producing cocoa for the world. Resilience allowed them to recover from environmental, social, and economic shocks. I think the extent is, to what extent are they able to recover? The reality is simple. Producers are not peripheral stakeholders in sustainability discussions. They are undeniably the very foundation upon which the global supply chains are built. In my interest, you people here to say that given all the challenges, this year we are likely to get a record harvest, cocoa. But I like the statement that she said that resilience doesn't mean that you produce more cocoa. And we have to look at the underlying, systems that led to that outcome. The reality is simple. Producers are not peripheral stakeholders in sustainability discussions. They are undeniably the very foundation upon which the global supply chain are built. Therefore, their experiences, challenges, aspirations must be central to shaping the future of sustainable cocoa production. This just echoes what Juniela said. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana provides a compelling a compelling example of what it means to deliberately invest in resilience. For decades, our nation has been recognized as a leading producer of premium quality cocoa. At the same time, we have remained committed to sustainability, environmental stewardship, responsible governance, and long-term viability, some of which the Executive Director of ISEAL did mention. To continue on this thread, COCOBOD, being the regulator of the sector, recognizes that safeguarding cocoa's future requires continuous investment across the entire value chain. We are addressing interconnected challenges, including the climate change issue, deforestation, land degradation, biodiversity, incidents of pests and diseases, concerns of the consumers about child labor, and the aging farming population. It's very interesting. When I joined cocoa nearly 35 years ago, and I did my first survey, which was published in the Malaysian Cocoa Journal, the average age of cocoa farmers was 50. When you do a survey today, the average cocoa farmer is between 50 and 55. This is just for information and see whether we are not looking at the systems where the younger people seep into the system, but which we don't take cognizance of. So 35 years ago, the average age was 50-55, and it's still 50-55. That does not negate the fact that we must have efforts to get younger people, interested in cocoa. I think where we have not done well, COCOBOD and all of us, is to provide evidence that there's livelihood to be made in cocoa. Livelihood to be made in cocoa. So recently, COCOBOD, we have developed a document that we'll give to any investor who wants to go into cocoa, doing a minimum of around 2,000 hectares. Together, this intervention helps farmers adapt in a changing climate while improving productivity and promoting environmental sustainability. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, COCOBOD has also strengthened partnership with development organizations and the private sector. Because look, we recognize that with all our expertise, we'll be 80 years next year. We cannot pretend that, Juliana made a very important statement that we shouldn't treat all farmers the same. This is a valid point. And we know something we call the cocoa typology, where we classify the farmers on the basis of the use they make of technology. So that recognition is there, but I'm happy that she reinforced that. Strengthening partnership with development organizations in the private sector through transformative initiatives, as she mentioned it. Ghana Cocoa Forest, the Red Plus ED mentioned, the Ghana Landscape Restoration and Small-Scale Mining Project, and the Tree Crop Diversification Project. We lost the opportunity to transform the sector when we took some money from the African Development Bank in 2017-18 to rehabilitate disease-infected trees in the western region, in particular 156,000 hectares. We took the money and we did only 40,000 completely, 100 back to the farmers, 28,000 partially. Meanwhile, we exhausted the whole facility. So that was a missed opportunity. Now we have some $100 million from the World Bank that is doing 21,000 hectares in Adabo Krom, Isam, and Asamankese. And then there's a discussion with the EU for some money to do 18,000 hectares. But these are all drop in the oceans, given the fact that we need to rehabilitate to enhance sustainability around 300,000 hectares. Those of you who are from the western part of Ghana, that's where we used to get over 60% of our cocoa. Now it is the Ashanti region that by default is our new leader in terms of regional production figures. So clearly, livelihoods are threatened in those parts of Ghana. This initiative demonstrates that increasing productivity, improving farmer livelihoods, and protecting forests are not competing objectives. They are mutually reinforcing goals that can and that we must pursue together. Ladies and gentlemen, another issue that demands particular attention is the question of living income. And Juliana also spoke about the subject. In fact, a few years ago, when I was director of research of COCOBOD, we working with the Swiss government, Swissco, we carried out a study to establish what really constitutes living income for cocoa farmers. Most of us think that it is the money that the farmer, when he sells the cocoa, recorded in the passbook, that's equal to the, no, it is not. And I'm sure we've shared the results in many platforms. It was surprising that over 70% of our farmers were really not earning living incomes. It was so bad to the extent that the funding agencies have advanced as resources, and we are expanding the sample to cover a substantial part of the farming population so that we should be able to. Because if you do all these interventions and it doesn't add up to the capacity of the household to look after the children, as the family, as Juliana alluded to, then clearly we have not made much progress. So that's an issue that I thought I should just mention it in passing. The introduction of the living income differential, which is an initiative between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, reflected a collective recognition that domestic sustainability is a critical part of the concept of sustainability. While significant progress has been made, we must acknowledge that achieving living income for farming households cannot be the responsibility of the producer countries alone. It requires commitment across the entire value chain, from government, traders. You will notice that I have avoided going to the subject of prices for our farmers for obvious reasons. I want to live here safe and sound back to my office. Sustainability requirements should not become additional burdens carried out solely by farmers. Instead, they must be supported by practical systems, aligned standards, shared responsibilities, and equitable value distribution. Ladies and gentlemen, technology has a role to play in the subject matter. It has emerged as one of the most powerful enablers of resilience. In Ghana, we are leveraging digital innovation to strengthen transparency, traceability, accountability, and data-driven decision-making through the cocoa sector. I'm sure most of you have heard about the cocoa management system. Many years we always say, oh, Ghana, we have about 400,000 farmers, about 600,000. Now we have the database, the base of which we can make meaningful decisions. We have mapped all the farms except new ones. Let me just mention that. The cocoa management represents a significant milestone in this journey. By integrating farmer registration, farm mapping, geolocation, traceability, and sector-wide data management, the system provides a strong foundation for informed policy making and improved service delivery. So this year, the distribution of government free fertilizer for our farmers, the distribution of all the other inputs is going to be based on the data that we have collected. So this saves us money, ensure that if my friend Larry's farm deserves 3 bags, it will get 3 bags and not 6 bags because he's my long-term friend. Complementing this effort is the Ghana Cocoa Traceability System, which enables visibility from farm to export and support compliance with emerging market requirements, that is the EUDR. For Ghana, these systems are not simply about meeting regulatory obligations. They are about creating the foundations for a more resilient cocoa economy, one that enables us to better support our farmers, manage risks, strengthen accountability, and respond effectively to changing market expectations. Partnership must therefore become a defining principle of our approach. In fact, all that I've said, a lot of it, we have done it with our partners, the EU, the embassies, and we really, really appreciate these engagements. Ladies and gentlemen, this symposium therefore presents an invaluable opportunity to strengthen collaboration We share experiences, identify practical solutions, and build consensus around actions that will advance resilience across cocoa sector and beyond. Despite the challenge before us, there's every reason for optimism. We have to. The road ahead will undoubtedly require difficult decisions, continuous learning, innovation, and sustained commitment. But we have to be confident, and I'm confident that, 50 years down the line, some people will meet somewhere and be talking about cocoa. Because it's something that it has to be so that we can protect livelihoods. I'm confident that through stronger partnership, shared responsibility, and collective action, we can build cocoa systems that are more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. Let this symposium, therefore, serve not only as a forum for discussion, but a catalyst for meaningful action. And let's remind ourselves that resilience is ultimately about people, as Juliana said, the farmers, the workers, the families, and future generations whose well-being depends on our actions and decisions that we take today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My Nigerian friends, I want to speak a bit of Yoruba. Are you Yoruba or? Okay, maybe I should leave it when we have break. And maybe I should invite you for a proper jollof later in the evening. Thank you very much.